Hi, I'm Dan, and welcome to Polar Currency and video number 59, Talking Money number 1. This is a new interview series in addition to the Currency Roundtable that I'm doing. Talking Money conversations will have a format kind of like the Roundtable, but with more of a personal look and into why people collect paper money. In this first interview, I get a chance to sit down with not one, two, but three coin collectors who have recently began collecting currency in kind of a big way. This isn't about coins versus paper, but asking how and why they've chosen to cross over to currency and collect both. My apologies for being intermittent with my videos, but I've got a top 10 coming up along with a new currency roundtable to follow before Labor Day weekend. With that, let's get on to the conversation. All right, welcome everybody. Today we got something different. We're just having a paper currency conversation. And what I've gotten to know through this community, it's been really cool, is to meet people through YouTube. And, I wouldn't be punished with these three people on this Zoom call if it wasn't for this. But it's so cool to talk to different people who have different stories that are at different places in collecting paper currency. And it's not all about paper currency. Everybody, including me, we all four of us on right now, and we're going to introduce them, have started with coins, and for one reason or another have gone to paper currency or both and stuck with both. And that's kind of the question that we want to get at today. Why can't you collect both? It's actually a good question. So with that said, I'm going to introduce Pastor Dean first, and we'll go with that.
Yeah, so I'm Dean. I'm with Massabesic Gold and Silver, or at least that's the channel that I started back in 2023. I just wanted to join the conversation on YouTube with other YouTubers in the hobby. One, I wanted to have an opportunity to show what I had been collecting, where I was kind of going with my collection, some of the things that I'd sold. And of course, I was also helping a couple people that I know personally who had collections that they wanted to get rid of. So I ended up selling those on eBay for them, and I took the opportunity to do some videos of those coins and currency just to show folks. But mostly the reason why I got into YouTube was exactly I wanted that community. Really didn't have coin groups around where I live, not very many shows, so it was kind of hard to connect with people. So I sought that, online, and YouTube has been a great resource for me. And my channel's doing fairly good, so I enjoy it. It's fun.
All right, so Gunny, I'm going to move to you. Gunny, I had ran across the coin tribe, and Gunny reached out to me and harassed me almost physically, but it was cool. I appreciated it. And
through the phone, yep.
Gunny, how did you get here today?
I got here today. It was like a lot of people during my time. Was during COVID. My father passed in February of 20 during the height of it when we were all getting shut down. And I inherited his coin collection, which he had been collecting since he was 10 years old. I had always been doing it with him because when we were little and we had change in our pocket, I say little, like 12, 13 years old, he'd hear that silver sound and he'd go, hey, come here. Show me what you got. We'd show him, he'd take a quarter, that silver quarter out and give me 50 cents for it, And it just evolved into learning more, like what is a Morgan dollar? What is a peace dollar? I mean, I knew what they were, but then you learn about the Carson cities and you go over to the Franklins, you learn about the Bugs Bunnies and all that stuff. But that also was at the same time, I got a book one time from middle school. That'll put my age out there in 82, let's say. And looking at these quarters, my dad's got a quarter worth $32. I'm like, oh my God, what 25 cents worth $30, thought it was cool. And then, of course, going into currency, because my dad liked that as well. But then I come across $500 bill. Didn't know anything about it when I was that big. And been chasing that thing for 40 years, like say, wanting one, going to get one. And it kind of led from coins now to currency. It's just an ever-evolving hobby. As you can see, I got my dance codes behind me. I still fill those up. But the currency it's just changing gears to, like, again, learn more about it and enjoy what I do. Collecting.
GenX. How
Yes.
did you get to there?
Well, let's see. I started a YouTube channel about 3 years ago, and my approach was basically educational. I was breaking down numbers and doing analysis and showing what coins, because that's all what my focus was at that time, what coins can do, what are key dates, what's the return, spot prices, how to analyze a fair price to pay for something, or if you're selling something, what would be a fair price that you could expect. And so I evolved from that, where my channel, basically I haven't been doing a whole lot lately. But I started with coins because that's what I had been doing since I was about 5 years old. My grandmother gave me a little tub of walking liberties, some mercury dimes, some buffalo nickels. And then shortly after, I got my mother's Whitman blue albums of pennies of the Lincoln cents. So I'd been actually collecting and tinkering in the hobby for over 50 years. And as I got older, I started buying basically a lot of the stuff that the mint was putting out. I was buying all the proof sets and the mint sets. And then I got into the Silver Eagles. And about a year ago, I had bankers boxes, plural boxes full of stuff. And I was looking at moving. And I didn't want to move this stuff.
Hold on. Well, what if shit hits the fan? Aren't you going to need that?
Damn,
Well,
you just jumped right on that, didn't you?
Well, I saw the opportunity. I'm taking it.
I love it.
Let's just say that I have a differing opinion that is was put out on a lot of YouTube channels as far as preparing for an SHTF scenario. I personally think it's a load of bunk.
We'll come back to that. I didn't mean to pinch you, GenX, on that specifically. I saw the door, and of course, I kicked it in.
Right. So I had a bunch of stuff, and I had a cool collection. I mean, I had every proof set from like 1959 to current.
Wow.
I had a fairly large collection, but I had a lot of stuff, and I wanted to pare all that down. And so I focused from like a quantity type thing to quality. So as I was selling and liquidating most of that stuff, I was converting that over into either high collectible, like 1921 piece dollar. I've got a couple of those. I've got some key dates and some older silver, and then over into gold bullion, and then also in pre-33 gold. So I'm doing the collecting end. And then through Gunny, he turned me onto your channel. And I started thinking, oh, this is kind of cool. I've always liked, I mean, the only note that I had is in 1976, my grandmother got me a $2 bill that was stamped, you know, from the post office for the first day of issue. And I still have that note to this day. So that's the only note that I ever had until I started watching you and I started taking notes, and Gunny and I started talking. And next thing I know, I go from nothing to I need a book to put my stuff in now. And
I am so sorry. So
yes,
that's
a book I got to buy like that. So I just, it's fun. I like the art, and I don't have any dream notes per se, but I've got a lot of wants just from the history. I like the history aspect of it. Obviously, it ties into my pre-33 gold. So any of the older notes and so forth. So the notes are something, it's new, so it's exciting. And I'm looking forward to growing and probably spending more money than I should on notes.
Yeah. We're going to be spending money this Thursday. Let's let everybody know at the Summer Fun Show in Orlando. Oh my God.
So
this is true.
Gunny is in Florida. So is GenX, but he moved there on purpose. So, you know, it's your fault.
Yes.
But you guys are going to the Fun Show, which is a big show, not the biggest one, but it's a big show. It's a very big show.
It is. In this time we got our lists. We're going to bring them with us.
All right, I'm cutting into our regularly scheduled video that we had and go because it was probably pretty boring. And this is kind of exciting stuff that just happened. So We've got GenX and Gunny actually went to the Florida Fun Show, and I haven't yet completed editing this video. So figured, what the heck, let's have an update. So GenX got there the day before. He had the early bird pass. So I'm going to start with you, GenX. Tell us what went on down at the Florida Fun Show.
Well, it was hot. Florida, middle of July.
Shocker.
Yeah. So I got there on Wednesday around 3:00. They let the dealers set up at that time, and then early birds can get in from 2 until the show ends around 7:00 on Wednesday. So the first thing that I did is I had a bunch of coins that I decided to get rid of, and they put a little bit of cash in my pocket. And so that was the very first thing that I did. I went and sold a bunch of silver. And then I started wandering around, and I was shocked at the amount of currency booths that were at the show. I'm not sure if it was because there was only 600 tables instead of 1,200 compared to the Winter Fun Show, but Gunny will have to back me up on this one. I would guess, what, 20, 25%, 20%?
I would even say it was close to half. I mean, it was just, there was so much everywhere at this one because, like we said before, there were 6 rows, so they had 100 through 600, whereas the Winter Fun Show has 1,200, I think, so 12 rows.
Yep.
So it was compacted, but it was like currency. I mean, it was everywhere. So it was mind blowing for a guy like me who was trying to focus on one thing and squirrel. It was amazing.
And not only was there just currency dealers, there was a lot of coin dealers that had currency, more so than I recall from the winter show. So it was a little overwhelming to come across that many currency booths. And I happened to find one, and I found several and was asking questions and so forth. And I had a short list, as we've interrupted the video, that we probably explained some of that. And the very first note that I looked at and acquired is this one right here.
Nice. Holy moly.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. All right.
That's cool. We
got a next one.
And
well, sort of. That's kind of a caveat to where, if you don't mind me jumping in, GenX. I believe when he told me Wednesday, because I'm firing off text messages like, "What do you get? What do you got? What do you see? What do you see?" And so I get there. What did I go to? Thursday. Me and the wife got in there, and it was just literally like he's saying, you're like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god!" Oh, just everywhere. Tombstones, portals here. Yes, there was a $10,000 note there. Wow. $100 bills, $1,000 bills. A person we met in Asheville when we were up in North Carolina, the guy said, "Hey, I'm going to be there. I'm going to have a booth. Come check me out." Cool. I go there. Well, we checked. He's the first booth I went to. He was at booth 540. Went straight down there, saw him. He had 500. He had $1,000 bills. He had everything. So I'm looking, taking a couple, before GenX got there, and I took a couple pictures, and I sent them off to you, Polar. You remember? All right, what do you think? What do you think?
But those texts, I will show the texts, and
they were ungraded.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. They were ungraded. And I'm looking at them, and he gave me a price, and I'm going, I texted you back. What do you think? Offer him this? It was almost like your message was telling me, but
don't marry the first girl you kiss.
Yeah. So kept looking. I took a few pictures of it, and then GenX showed up. And then we went outside. We're talking, having a smoke break. And then all of a sudden the wife goes, "All right, I got to go because I want to go buy stuff." And then GenX goes, "Hey, you and me, let's go. You're going to go buy me a coffee." I'm like, "Okay." $7 coffees later. All right. So we sit down. He shows me the one. I'm like, "Oh, beautiful. The funny backs, love them. I think they're neat." Then now you're gonna have to show him something. He pulled something out and he goes, now, it was a great deal. I bought it. If you want it, it's yours. And he got something, and I want you to show him.
Wow.
That's nice.
So he bought it. He offered it. And I go, well, he told me what he paid for it within my budget, because, I told him my budget because he's my, doing my recon for me. He did this beautiful specimen. Go ahead and flip it, GenX, because the back looks just as good.
That is a stunner. That is a beautiful
Yeah, it is.
30. I mean, that's a beautiful 30.
Yeah.
And it is. And I looked at it, I go, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. And I was like, well, I want to go shop around too. Well, I look around, I go here, striking out, don't like the prices, go here. I don't like the way that one looks. Too many. There was one that had folds and all four, and it was graded a 30. I'm going, yeah, I'm not buying that.
Yep.
Like the ones you guys showed me, dings on the forehead, because what everybody needs to know also, the night before I went down there, I was on a conference call with Polar Currency and Mr. Dean. I swear to God, these guys were like my drug dealers. Hey, man, I found something for you. You might want to look at this. You might want to look at that. Check this one out.
We weren't baiting you. We're just like, hey,
No, but
this
it
is
was
what's
great.
out there.
They were telling me it was such a great phone call because, they're giving me prices, what to look for. Yes, Gunny, you're getting a graded one. Am I? I don't know. That was what I'm thinking, but they were leaning me that way. And look, this is not a cheap purchase. Everybody knows that.
Right.
So then let's go back to the fun show. After we drank the coffee, I'm pouring down sweat. And of course, GenX is looking at me like, dude, you okay? Yes, man. It's hot outside. I just chugged a thing of coffee and pouring down sweat. And I knew what was coming. I got to go buy this thing because if I don't, I'm not going to do it. Went to one table, no, because went to the other table, no. Then he goes, why don't you go check out the table I went to, right up front. Went up front, just sat down, told her what I was looking for, told her my budget-ish. And she goes, well, what about this? She threw 3 or 4 of them at me.
500 you're talking about.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And I also actually had her look at, I actually looked at a couple of $1,000 notes too, by the way. And I was like, ooh, I can afford that. But it didn't look good. Put the $1,000 note back. Ready to get up. Looked at my partner in crime there, Mr. GenX. And come on, Cat, you got to get out of the way. I wasn't sure. Wasn't sure. And all of a sudden, it was almost like if you don't get it, I'm going to. But you already got one. Well, it's also basically meant I'm going to have to buy his. Long story short, I got mine.
Wow.
But I will tell you, I got an EPQ.
That is a beauty.
I mean, Gunny, first off, congratulations, sincerely.
Yeah.
That and GenX, yours is a great 30, but I think this one, the alignment, the corners are sharp as hell. Gunny.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
It's
Wait a minute.
Look how dark the back is.
It's a gorgeous note.
It is
beautiful. And GenX, yours is a fantastic note.
Oh, absolutely.
2 beautiful 30s.
Yeah.
And I will tell you this, guys. I've actually been staring at this thing for God knows how long. So I've actually, you were like, do you have your stuff? And I was like, well, it's right here, because I've been putting it right in front of me, just like, just.
I'd be sleeping with it, just saying.
And I said, okay, we got to get outside. I mean, I had goosebumps, and I believe he told me he did too. And
wow.
I handed it to him because I didn't have any, I wasn't going to shove that thing in my pocket. GenX came prepared. He had his backpack. I handed it to him. I started to talk and I couldn't. I was just like, give me a second. Wow. Just that. And I knew that was going to happen. Just get a little emotional over this because, one, it's something I've been looking for 40 years. Wish my dad was there type of thing, Yes, he saw me get it. I know he did. But just having a good friend like my buddy GenX there, and you guys in the background, I could hear you, no, don't get that one, get this, I could hear all the advice,
You were in fine hands with GenX.
Ooh. And we went outside, and this is where the fun part I actually think was funny. GenX pulled up the phone. I guess when I was texting you, about that ungraded one. The funny thing was, I think you said the message was, "Hey, you got to help Gunny, man," something like that. Like,
I'm like, put a leash on him.
so that made it a lot more fun, knowing that I'm pretty sure GenX was not going to let me buy an ungraded bill.
All right, gentlemen, great job. Let's get back to the video.
It's a matter of like you say, when we like these notes you've educated us on, like, well, for example, this pretty one, it's like I learned about it, the history, like, you tell us what's on the back of these bad boys about the farming and industrial age, and it just makes it such a desirable hobby over the coinage to me. I wouldn't say I've 100% given up on the coins. I've just given up on getting the ridiculousness of spending $300 on a 3-ounce collectible coin,
Okay, Gunny, can I stop you there and ask you a question? Because with coins, I mean, I know me and Gunny have talked. I know you're a huge Ike fan, which isn't the most popular coin. I actually like it. I like it. I like Ikes.
Yes.
But I mean, they are cool because they were the last, right? And this is when I was growing up. These hit circulation, and it's like, everybody complained about them, and I'm like, okay, whatever. So, is Ike your favorite? Your favorite?
That is 100% my favorite coin. If you ask GenX, I've shown him, and he's held it. I got a monster box of Ikes. Like, I'm up to, like, I don't know, almost 700 of them. That doesn't include the silver, brown, and blue Ikes that I have.
Right.
It's just that coin. When my father put that under my pillow when I was a kid for a tooth fairy, I was like, well, this is the coolest thing in the world. And of course, everybody said, you got to hold on to that. It's going to be worth something someday. Well, it's worth $1. I'll let you know that. Yeah. But they were something that just, every time I see one, brings me back to childhood, because those were the big coins, and they were just monstrous when you're just a kid, when you're holding one in 1977 or something. And still to this day, I see them and I just want to flip them around. I got a couple of them in my ashtray in my truck. You'll hear them jingling, and everybody's like, what's that? And you don't need to worry about it. That's mine. It's just something for me. And I think the Ikes are the greatest coin that was ever made. And why they didn't do a 50th anniversary, never mind. We won't get into that. Hey, it is what it is.
Well, so let's stick with Gunny here for a little bit, and I'm going to come back to the other two. So Gunny, so you always had the interest in the 500. That's been there. Mm-hmm. But the currency thing, it's like, what was the kind of, I don't know if it's the single thing that said, I mean, do you see yourself shifting from coins to currency, or 50-50, or you don't know? You don't know where you're going.
I don't know, because I'm not necessarily doing the currency for an investment standpoint. Because, that's a topic for another discussion. Do you collect, do you invest, or do you invest to collect, or whatever? It's a little bit more affordable. For one thing, I mean, getting a little bit later in age when you're better financially and stuff like that helped. It's just,
wait, do you mean that currency is more affordable?
For me, it is, I guess. I don't know. Well, it depends which bill we're looking at.
Well, and that's just like coins, but that's one of the raps that current paper currency gets, is that, it's so expensive.
I beg to differ on that, because, people are going out. You could spend $25 on a good looking Franklin half dollar. I could go spend $25 on when I got this up in North Carolina, a nice, crisp, brand new, uncirculated $5 silver certificate. It's equal, sort of, but I haven't given up on coins, because I still got some Danskos to fill. I got 4 or 5 quarters for my book. That's all I need. Half a dozen or so piece dollars, and a Morgan book, which we all know I'll never fill, because I don't have the Biltmore estate money, stuff like that.
Right.
But this hobby with the currency shifting, it just seems to be more entertaining because of the history of the artwork, and thinking about these guys made them by hand and backwards. And it's beautiful. I wish our currency was more like that. And the hunt goes on, because how many times have I texted you? Did you know about this? Well, of course I did, Gunny. Well, I didn't, No, he doesn't. But
I do.
I call you a dumbass, but I'm like,
he does. Like, for example, that tombstone note, never heard of it. And all of a sudden, GenX goes, dude, you got to stop, because I'm focused here and you're putting me down the rabbit hole. And I came across, yours truly, the Polar Currency channel, and it just reignited, because I've been to the big fun show for the last 3 years. every year I do come home with currency. Either I got the Black Eagle one year, I got a gold certificate one year. Can't remember what. Oh, last year, I got two of these. I got the 10 and the 20. So I've always gotten currency, but now it seems like watching your channel and getting more of the history of them, it amplified it. And I blame you, kind sir.
Well, and that I'm going to shift over to Dean. I mean, Dean, you already had some currency. If you want to tell a little bit more of that, I know some folks have heard it, but to me, it's interesting how currency's always been there for you, but
yeah, and I can absolutely talk about that. And yes, if you go to the roundtable number 9, you can hear further of what I was doing for collecting. But I do want to touch on one thing that GenX said, and that's shifting from the quantity to the quality. And when you're going from coins to now something new like currency, you can right at the start focus on the quality. You don't have to be like, oh, I'm going to collect everything. You can just say to yourself, hey, this is new for me. I want to learn as much as possible about it and really go for those quality notes. And that's kind of what I ended up doing with my Canadian 1937 series that I've been collecting. I went right for those notes that were in the AU 50s and into the those gem grades, the 63s, 64s, 65s, because I said to myself, this is new for me. I want to expand on this collection. Why don't I go for as high as a grade as I can? And with the 1937 Canadian series, it's very affordable at those with those grades, so I went for it. And then you helped me out with some American notes, which was great. Just chatting about different ones to look for, what are good grades. I think you said it well, and I'm very excited for your video that you're going to be doing in the next month or so about the fact that if you get a note that's in XF, that's a really beautiful quality note compared to those coins that are in the XF. So I think, it's kind of like the world is your oyster in a sense when you jump into currency for the first time with the experience of collecting something else like coins, if that makes sense.
No, it does.
Yeah.
So, based on it, again, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm just saying for the viewers, it's literally, I knew you had notes. I knew you had some nationals. That's how I fell in love with you and your channel because of your national banknote, Wilton National Bank. But it's like
1929.
You kind of escalated your habit of quickly as far as I looking from the outside in, I'm like, wow, this guy's going crazy, in a good way.
Yeah.
And
It's just, I love Morgans, as you know, I do. Yeah. But what makes me love the Morgan is that, yes, they all look the same when you first glance at it, but then when you get into it and you start noticing the little things on the coin surfaces itself, you're either going to love that stuff or you're going to hate it. So if you get into VAMs or if you get into like looking for die cracks and impure metal streaks, die clashes, all the things that I talk about on my channel, to me that's interesting, and that's why I stick with the Morgan. But with notes, what's awesome is Gunny was saying it before, just the artistry alone, they're so beautiful to look at, and there's so many different ones out there that again, you can find these beautiful pieces of art that at a reasonable price, and also it's American history or history in general. So yeah, to me, I think it's something that people shouldn't ignore, especially if you're collecting coins, or even if you're like, I think I said that with my last purchase video where I showed the $10 gold certificate I bought from Heritage. I don't know, as a stacker, if you're stacking gold, why wouldn't you want a piece of American history like a gold certificate in your stack, if you will? Even if it's just to have a conversation about, anyway, I just I love it. That's why I jumped in.
So, and GenX, you're the one that intrigues me the most. To see you come over, and especially with where you've shifted and hearing your story going to the pre-1933 gold, which I completely, totally get, because the history, the beauty, we were talking, Gunny, GenX the other night about the old, I can never pronounce it right, the Charlotte Mint and the Dalahaga, I can never say
the Delonigan.
Delana got. Thank you.
The mint that was in Georgia.
NASCAR mix
Yeah.
combo in there. But I'm like, that's such cool history. And especially it's a lot of history of that pre-1933 old. As a history major myself, it's like we skip over it. We go Revolutionary War, 1812 a little bit, and Oregon Trail, and then we're in the Civil War. And there's a lot of history that happened in those 40 years, and that's when those mints came out, and that's where some really cool gold is. So tell me, I mean, it's like for you to say, hey, to take a hard look at currency, and obviously you're purchasing it like it's on crack right now, and which is cool. I'm very interested, GenX, in what you're looking at collecting right now. We know Gunny wants the 500. We know Gunny is a ping pong ball going all over the place, and I love it. I'm curious about where you're going because you're pretty analytical on things.
Would it shock you if I said the educational series?
No, that would not at all. Because of how much. Okay, so tell me about that. Tell me why.
I love the artwork and the history behind it, and it's only 3 notes, so it's not too bad.
No.
Other than the price. So there's a certain grade that I'd like to get, and it's going to take me a couple years, probably, to get a 30 grade on those 3 notes, especially that $5 note. I think they're gorgeous notes, and it goes back to similar to the 33 gold, where there's only a finite amount made. There's only so many of them still available in a decent condition, and that's why I like it.
And if you look at those numbers, by the way, I have to stop for a historical moment here.
Listen,
because
is this a sidebar?
It's a sidebar. What's so cool about the 1896s is that there was like this, out of this much, the story of the 1896 is about the $5 and the lack of clothing. And I just got to clear that out. That was very, 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 very small portion of why those notes were pulled and redesigned. The biggest problem, it was so much ink, and the denominations, retailers hated them.
Really?
Yes, if they got wet, they smeared, they smudged, and when you were going through them fast, you couldn't tell the difference between a 1, 2, and 5. And if you look at them, and I'll throw them up on the screen, you will see that very quickly. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, the Treasury Department, which runs the Mint and the Bureau of Engraving, anybody heard of a standing Liberty quarter and what they did to fix that? Yeah, they put chainmail on.
Yeah. Let's just turn it into an S&M coin.
Right. If it wasn't completely.
Oh, that's great.
That's
just saying.
That is beautiful.
I'll be here all night, guys. Sorry.
Yeah. Enjoy the veal. So that it just gets to the point where the 1960 they put the chainmail on. Why wouldn't they have done that if it was as simple as a wardrobe malfunction? Why wouldn't they have just covered up electricity?
Well, they got the plates. Can't they get their engraver?
Right. So, little nails. So that's my point on that. But my point if you're going to collect a series, educational one, and Dan, what you're doing with, you're taking doing what Dean is saying, get the higher grade.
Yeah, 30s.
Well, and when it comes to that, when you're getting those higher grades, you're not just collecting those. You're putting that in for the long run, because those things are going to do something for you down the line. You showed that one bill because GenX has certain grades he's after. I'm after a $500 bill that just looks gorgeous. I want a good looking one, and I want pinholes, and I want notches. You pulled up a grade when we were talking last week. I think it was a 10, and the thing looked beautiful. And if somebody had a $500 bill that was a 10 that looked beautiful, which probably isn't going to happen, I'd snatch that up in a heartbeat. I know roughly what I want to pay and what grades I'm looking for, but I'm not specific on the grade. I'm specific on how well that bill looks, to either hang it on my wall, stuff it in my book, whatever. I just want something that looks really good. And then I can just sit back and go, yep, I finally got it.
Like that. I mean, that's one of the things where I ask, and it's like, I'm curious, like Dean, I know you provide more information in info cointainment. I do the same thing in a different way. We all do it, but Dean, you're very similar to me as far as I think as how what we present And there's, so Gunny and GenX, you guys are new to currency outside of, well, what are you seeing on YouTube?
In reference to currency,
Other channels to find out more information.
not much, to be honest with you. I mean, between you, Stu, they're the biggest ones that I see. There's a couple others you've referenced to me. I've checked out, don't have the names memorized yet, but it is such a small crowd in the currency to learn about it, other than getting books, but to get the experience like we all come to do now, flipping through YouTube. It's a small crowd, and it's pretty narrow, but
Gen X. So I mean, leading into that, because I poked around the last week in between our last conversations that we had. I'm looking for coin information, and you don't have to do what me and Dean or other folks do, but it's like it's 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 role searching. Nobody tells me about the coin itself, or why did they make a Morgan? Where did the peace dollar? Like, I discovered the peace dollar, what came out of really the Federal Reserve banknotes of 15 and 18. Those are intertwined. It's a great story, but it's like, no one, and no one ever really tells those stories. It's all about the numbers, and that's what I guess. And not even that, I'm talking numismatic information. Gen X, because have you found any channels that are out there? Because I'd love to help promote them. I'd love to watch them like I watch Dean's.
Unfortunately, I want to say no. Even when I was doing informational, it was on stuff for flippers or for your collection. It wasn't the educational. That I can recall, I don't know of anybody doing anything that say that you're doing.
No, I don't think anyone.
With the polar currency, nobody in coin that I know of. Now, there are some older videos from years ago from a couple of different people that did get into a little bit of information on the coins, but not the history aspect, or tie that in the way that you do with the currency. They'll get into the mintages, or it's a key date, and this is what it's worth. And if this is what you find, this is what you can get. But, very, very, well, I shouldn't say very few. I don't know of any that delve into the history the way that you do on currency or on coins. They want to know.
To speak for Gen X, but it's almost like, to be honest with you, currency, that is a specific crowd. It's night and day, two different sports and stuff like that. And that's just based on what I've been picking up. And Gen X, he and I talk regularly, and it literally, it is a different crowd.
For the most part, I do find that the fancies are a little out of control, in the sense that you get those channels that are really pushing fancies that are not.
Really I've called people out on eBay when he said it's a birthday note. I go, no.
Yeah, exactly.
That was
exactly. Yeah, but I wanted to go back to what Gen X said about value. I really do find that that's a lot of the times people will ask me, well, how much is it worth? How much is it worth? How much is it worth? They don't care about the history. They don't care about, really anything else. They just want to know how much it's worth. And that's really a shame, because I think they're missing out on so much more of the hobby than just, the value of something. So,
and this is what's sad. Maybe us four are different, because Dean, I find it interesting when you're telling me the die cracks or this or that, the different unique things, or why, because it's like he said, you had something on the New Orleans Mint, and it's generally known for weak strikes and things like that. I learned stuff about coins that I really didn't want to. This is this is before we connected, by the way.
Right.
Oh, thanks for letting me know that. I mean, it makes sense.
But you're also, when you get into that stuff, you're learning specifically about each mint, and then you're learning about the people that actually worked in those mints. And you got to remember, geographically, we're talking about places that are completely different. San Francisco's temperature, weather, whatever patterns are completely different from New Orleans. Same with Philadelphia, same with Denver, same with Carson City, you name it. So when you get into that, you're starting to see the differences of coins based on when they were minted, how they were minted, the conditions and everything. So to me, I find that fascinating. But other people are like, okay, Jan, how much is it worth?
what has happened with the numismatic side of coin collecting, we have a different meaning bullion, meaning what's the spot price on silver, and that's all I care
Right.
about. And I'm going to buy 1,000 Sunshine Mint rounds.
Right.
And I'm not even going there on the doomsdayer because I'm sorry, they're off the chart crazy. And in conversations before Gunny and GenX, it's like that's what has turned you off on the coin side, really. And let's call it the metals side. The metals have kind of taken over the YouTube coin community.
Yeah.
In some ways, yeah.
All right, folks, we took a brief break because, I had to go to the bathroom. I'm an old man. That's what I have to do. So there you go. I think all four of us here are drawn to currency for the same reason that we got drawn to coins. We like the history. We like what's on the actual piece of currency, whether it's, metal or paper. And getting back to Gen X, your history, you like the history.
Yes,
And
sir.
so besides the educational notes, well, okay, that's going to take some time finding the grades you want, finding the market value and all that fun stuff. That is fun. The hunt, right? The hunt is always great. What else is on your plate? What else are you looking for currency?
Well, I need a red seal $1 bill. I need that to complete my red seal collection. I'm also interested, obviously, in the same type of note that Gunny's looking for, the 500. I'm going to look for the 500 before the 1,000, only because I like the back of the 500 better. Another one that I'd like to pursue, but I just don't know, would be, I'm also a Civil War guy. I like to read about the history of the Civil War, and to go after Civil War bills or the bills with Civil War generals or prominent figures from that time frame would be cool. But then we get now into budget. I mean, it's going to take some time to save up for the educational series, and then some of these other ones that I want. They're not exactly cheap bills,
You're talking
and
about
good grades that I'm looking for.
all right. Let's talk about that elephant in the room called the $500 note, Gunny. So Gunny, since we've been talking, all right, it's a good 6-7 months now. $500 note. I know Gen X can't. He just wants to pause and go off air right now because he just can't hear it one more time.
Remember Archie Bunker? Like I said earlier, a 20, a 25, a 30, whatever price I can get. I have a number in mind. I don't want to say it because I don't want to
No,
put the bad karma out there, because I don't want the price to go up because I said it. But I know the price I'm looking for. I've discussed that with Dan. I'm not even telling my wife because she's going to have her AFib kick in, even though she doesn't have it. She'll probably develop it. But that is the main thing. That's the goal. I liquidated my silver when it was at $33. I mean, all my half dollars, all the 40%ers. I wound up making pretty good killing, considering I only paid 50 cents a piece for them. Sold a lot of the silver bars, not the gold bars, silver bars and all that stuff, just liquidated for the purpose of changing it over to that high denomination bill that I'm just itching to get my hands on to call it mine. As far as the fun show goes, yes, the $500 bill is up here. I do have a backup list of a few things.
Would you share it? I'm interested.
I would like to get one of the 1905 $20 gold certificates, the large guy. Because you asked Dan earlier.
The Technicolor?
Yes.
Okay.
Wow.
Maybe. We'll see.
That might be your budget, Gunny.
Exactly. Because you asked Gen X earlier. I like large currency. I think the horse blankets they're awesome,
Yeah.
The 22 $10 gold certificate. I believe the 1886 silver certificate, one of those. What was the one with the chief on the $5 note?
Yep, the chief.
Want that one. That's 1899. Of course, like everybody's favorite in the currency world, that one with the battleship on the back. Oh my God.
Oh
my God.
Yeah.
But
you got a huge list. This is good.
Well, like I said, it's a backup list.
Look at Dan. He's like, I know I've been researching him for it.
More of a dream sheet, and we'll call it that.
So Dean, so I'm gonna get back to Dean because we haven't talked. So, what's Dean's direction on currency highlights? What is
Well, right now I'm trying to finish up my fancies so that I can move on to some of the other notes. So I picked up some star notes. I picked up another gold certificate that I like, and I'm trying to find a 50. That's probably my next big buy. But then I do have a lot of Canadian notes that people aren't really interested in. You are, Dan. You listen to
I
me on
am.
the phone. But they're just some gorgeous notes. Maybe you could throw them up, Dan. I'll send you the little list, and you can throw them up because they're beautiful notes, just as beautiful as American notes, and they cost about the same. They're in the $600 to $800 range. At least that's Canadian. So with the exchange rate, I get a little bit of a break. But they are beautiful notes, so I do want to try to get them. But there are some, American notes that I want to get to. I don't have a woodcutter or wood chopper, I should say, yet. I do want to get one with the public error. I think that'd be fun. If you're going to buy an error note, that's a pretty famous error.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, and it's reasonably priced. You don't have to spend, thousands of dollars for that. There's just so many. I would love to get it cheap, but I'm just not there yet. I think that's something. Same with the bison, the legal tender bison. I think that would be awesome too. But again, I'm just not quite there yet with the collecting. But I'm going to continue to look at some cheaper notes too. I do have a 1950 $5 that's in my watch list, but it's a fancy, and it's a lot of money. it's a lot of money. So I don't know if
You're not going to tell us. You're just going to leave us hanging.
Yes.
Well, it's a super radar 1950,
All right.
and I believe the price is $950 on it. It is a very nice note though, so I don't know.
Well, I'm going to wrap this up, and Gunny, thank you. GenX, thank you. Dean, thank you. It's just cool to talk currency, and especially with, I don't want to call you newbies. You're not newbies. It's just a wrong term. Just three people that have kind of stepped over the line, the dark line, and yet haven't left what you collect behind. The coins are still there. I mean, mine are still here. I think we all still appreciate coinage. It's just this currency thing. I just want the hobby to be healthy. I want people to be aware that they can collect and spend as little or as less as they want to. That's my mission. But do it smartly.
And if the more you keep pumping those videos out, the more education I'm getting out of it, and the deeper down the rabbit hole I'm gonna go.
Yeah. To come across something that you find interesting, that's half the battle. I mean, I would definitely. I think we all. I mean, okay, why get a piece of currency? It's the story first, and it's the monetary value, second or third.
Yep. And then telling the stories to my friends, how I found it and how I negotiated and what I got it for.
That's
and
fun.
they're giving me a thumbs up going, you got a great deal. And that's awesome.
So with that, we're going to sign off. I thank you for your time, gentlemen. We will be back. And I'll apologize now for that. All right, folks, have a good day. We'll see you on the next turn.